come across this tarot reading, your energy is unreadable to this person. All right, they just can't figure you out anymore. Now, this is going to be for all zodiac signs. The reading is general and timeless, so whenever you're watching this, it can be for you. But we do have the map maker of destiny, authentic purpose, inspiration, and free will. We have the card time, butterflies, feeling complete, can't stop smiling, happiness, and devotion. But then we have silence, frozen, no words, and stone wall. Now, on the bottom of the deck here, we do have the Fire Prince, optimism, but then we also have aggression. Someone can perhaps take your silence the wrong way, where there's someone here that's taking your silence as in like, this person has not reached out to me for some time. This person's upset with me. Like, this person can't figure you out. They can't figure out your intentions. You're unreadable. And this person doesn't quite like it. But I will say in the silence, there's nothing going on. In the silence, you're actually very happy because we do have optimism here. But I will say there is someone, and butterflies can resonate with you. There is someone who has mistaken your silence for aggression or that you're upset with them. And what I'm actually seeing in this reading is your life is so good that you're silent. Stonewall, yeah, but they're not reading you correctly, is like what I'm seeing here. All right, now again, whenever you're watching this, it can be for you. The reading is general and timeless. It's for all zodiac signs. So just take what resonates with you. And if you would like a personal tarot reading, a private session with me, or to download our Akashic Records mini course, you have 2 days left until it goes up to $19.99. Check out that box below. We have the website 144bluerosetemple.com and everything else it is that you will need. All right, collective. We do have, I will say, despite silence between you both, there is absolutely no issue. Actually, your life is great. Look at that angel of love. Where, someone is mistaking your silence for something else here. And I will say this is because you've been silent, less talkative, like say responding less or completely silent, but it's been a long period of time. And this person's just like, there's something going on with the collective. And again, it's actually so good in your life that that's why you took a very long time to be silent, to speak less, things like that. You feel complete. Sometimes the silence is a good silence. Sometimes there's nothing to say. Right? And just everything to feel and to be present with. Now, what do we have here for the collective? What do we have here for the collective on authentic purpose, time, happiness, silence? Why do we have authentic purpose, time, happiness, and silence? Aries, Leo, Sag. You could be an Aries, Leo, Sag. It could also be someone else. Now, where's the collective's energy in this reading of time, happiness, and silence? You're unreadable. You're showing up as unreadable here. We have the Moon card. They can't quite see. Or your energy seems as if it's very mysterious and veiled. And we have Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn here. So you're in a place where you feel very secure. I see that you're happy. You feel whole. And there is like this veil around you, this, you're shrouded in mystery, your energy. But it's not in a bad way. Things are going great in your life. It's just someone here that feels your energy is unreadable. They can't figure you out. Or you've been silent or less talkative for so long that they're like, no, this person has something against me. And you actually don't. So let's dive deeper. Now, what do we have for the collective here? Why the Three of Wands for time, happiness, and silence? You could be seeing the number 333. You've been in separation from someone or people for some time. But you've been up to good things. Three of Cups. Why the Three of Wands and the Three of Cups for? Why the Three of Wands and the Three of Cups? For time, happiness, and silence. But you're not telling anyone. And sometimes people think, when you're not saying anything that, there's an issue or this or that. You're actually more of, I'd like to have a good life in private. I would like to celebrate my wins, but actually not for everyone to see. I want to celebrate it in private with the people that I love. Where I'm seeing you getting very big wins here. 3 of Cups, celebrations, friendship, it could be travel, it could be all these different things. But with the 7 of Swords here, you have decided that your happiness is private. And that's okay, actually. That's what I'm seeing here. Why the Ace of Coins for time, happiness, and silence? Why the Ace of Coins for time, happiness, and silence? And why the King of Wands here for time, happiness, and silence? Now, what's this 2 of Swords for time, happiness, and silence? Knight of Swords, the 8 of Wands. Why the Knight of Swords and the 8 of Wands for this 2 of Swords? Yeah, there's this energy here of, look at this evil eye. On your 10 of Coins, your Knave of Coins. You're not being stingy. For some reason that word comes to mind. What is this Ace of Coins here for time, happiness, silence? I mean, what you did here, it wasn't personal, I'll tell you that. And I will say there's a boundary, but it's a boundary that can easily be not overstepped, very easily. Why the Wheel of Fortune for time, happiness, and silence? Why the Wheel of Fortune for time, happiness, and silence? Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio here, and then the Wheel of Fortune, and then 2 of Wands. Why the 2 of Wands, Queen of Cups, and the Wheel of Fortune for time? And then you have the Queen of Coins, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. What I'm seeing here is you only set a boundary of, the evil eyes, that's it. But I will say it's surprising, right? Of how many people and things it can be. You put a boundary on your peace and your joy. That's what I'm seeing here. Of, nope, I'm saying no to evil eyes. Nope, it cannot come into my energetic field. The people who are going to bring me evil eyes, no. You have a boundary of love, of peace. Ma'at energy, truth, love, and peace. That's it. Ma'at is just simply the truth. That's it. It's actually a boundary that's not asking for a lot. It can be surprising, though, and ultimately boundaries trigger people who don't have pure intentions. Where I actually see that you're building a beautiful life for yourself, and life is good, but you have a boundary of, my life is really good, don't bring me energy that doesn't belong to me. Don't bring me chaos. Don't bring me evil eyes. Where, and you have that right. And I will say it's all being cut out here. 2 of Cups. Anybody that would bring this energy your way, it is being cut out of your life and is. For some of you, I'm hearing the word wards. Or do you have any wards, or do you have natural wards? Where for some of you, your wards are working. And again, the key word here is, the key thing rather, is it only keeps out the evil eyes. And that's the thing, though, that when people actually get into that energy, they're still proving you right. And not that you have to be proven right at all, but it's the kind of thing like, who do they think they are? This and that. Well, as long as you're talking that way about me before you even come into my house, my place, my energy, whatever it may be, as long as you're thinking that way, you are going to, like, you know, where there's no gatekeeping. You don't even have walls up. Please, you know, for some of you, maybe just be in soul alignment, you know, like maybe it's like, nope, I'm not, you know, if that karmic energy is not written in the stars, I'm not dealing with it, kind of thing. These are very healthy, loving boundaries. But I will say healthy and loving boundaries trigger people that had something sneaky or whatever it is to begin with, you know, and then it's like, well, that's why you can't get in, you know? Like, you know the song, it's by Chris Brown, Look at Me Now. I didn't know you could hate from outside the club. You can't even get in, you know, but it's more of your auric field where what people don't realize is if they're in that energy before they even approach you, of course this is happening. Of course there is a boundary. Look at how they're looking and thinking and feeling about you before they even come your way. And so what I do see is that you got serious about your peace and your joy. You really did. And I will say the only people or energies that can't really, like, say, get in are the people that are in this energy anyway. You know, where people, their words might be moving and things like that, but look, like I'm just seeing a mirror where it's like, but look, you know, the Eight of Wands energy here. And I feel the need to mention this too. Spirit's also saying that you are being protected from monitoring spirits or curious eyes. And like monitoring spirit and curious eyes where they don't have interest in you, they're just curious. They just want to know what's going on. And it's like, no, you cannot come in my home to just look around and then try to, you know, figure out something and then go talk about it to your friends. You know, like that. No, we're not doing that. That's what this is here too. You know, where people, oh my God, you know, how could you do that? You need to be more open. The people who are saying you need to be more open are the people to not be open to. Like, that's what this reading is saying. And I will say you're coming into like a position, a place of a lot of power. You're showing up as a King of Wands, the Emperor, the Hermit card by the end of this reading, okay? You're in a lot of power, a lot of leadership, responsibility. Or like, you know, you got a magnetizing aura is what I'm seeing too. But with the Hermit card, I see you in Hermit mode by the end of this reading. We have King of Wands, the Hermit card, the Emperor card over here. You're also someone just who's very, you know, focused, or you've been very focused for some time. But people are taking that the wrong way. But I will say it really just is having healthy boundaries. You know, maybe protecting your joy, which you've worked on, but you're also very focused here. Now, for the outcome of this reading, for time, happiness, and silence, why the King of Wands, the Hermit card, and the Emperor? Why the King of Wands, the Hermit card, and the Emperor? Because you're in it for the long run. That's why. Because you're showing up here again, King of Coins, the Knave of Coins. You're also, like, you don't got time for none of that. For the extra stuff, you know, you don't have time for none of that. Or say, like, not even that you don't have time. You could even, like, say, like, I don't have the patience for it. Sorry. Not today. Where we have butterflies, feeling complete, can't stop smiling, happiness, devotion. You know, where you've actually completed something here. I'm seeing that you're very successful. You have some sort of status. You know, you're definitely in some sort of position of leadership and of power. But you feel complete. You know, like when people just are silent, you know, like, no, you know, things are good. I did what I had to do. That's like what this is. You are complete. Something is completed. God has answered your prayers. And it's that kind of energy, though, where, you know, like God has been so good that I can't speak, actually. God has been so good that I can't tell anybody what's going on. God has been so good to me. And that's what this reading is saying. And again, you know, your protection, or for some of you, your wards, or your protection in general, whatever it may be, it's working, where it's also not saying, like that you're just avoiding conflict, and things like that. That this reading is not saying that. The unnecessary, say conflict, can't get into your energy. And it's almost as if it's almost as if there are people here that if they knew you were happy, they might, try to manipulate, do things, That's what I see here. You have nothing left to say, but it's not in a bad way. Now, so Spirit's actually saying for you to be silent and humble. What's advice for time, happiness, feeling complete in silence? What do we have here for advice for time, happiness, feeling complete in silence? God has answered your prayers, and that's what you need to know. That might even be the title of this reading. I'm silent because God has answered my prayers in ways that I can't even speak. 3 of Swords, the 9 of Cups, the Queen of Coins. You've been through so much. And I think a lesson of going through so much, is just that when nothing else is happening, right? We can have nothing happening and not see it as boredom, as this or as that. It's called peace. We don't always have to be busy or loud or this or that. You've been through a lot is what this reading is saying. 3 of Swords, the 9 of Cups, the Queen of Coins. And so what this reading, though, is also saying is you've been through so much in your life, you are maintaining where you are. And I will say, the silence is actually gratitude. You're very thankful in this reading. I'm going to grab from this deck. For advice for this reading, for the advice for the collective, we have time, happiness, devotion, and silence. Why the 3 of Swords for time, happiness, devotion, and silence? Let's see what card. It didn't fall face up. Why the 3 of Swords for advice for time, happiness, devotion, and silence? Yeah, I will say you're showing up as Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, Aries, Leo, Sag. King of Pentacles here. You're showing up as you're showing up as fire and earth. Could be 2 people, but it feels like different versions of you. Why the 9 of Cups for time, happiness, devotion, silence? That's what it is. Why the Queen of Coins? Why the Queen of Coins for time, happiness, devotion, and silence? What do I say when God has given me everything that I need? What do I say? It's that kind of thing. You know what this is? This is the kind of thing where you won the lotto and you shut up for the rest of your life. You won the lotto and you just disappear. It's that kind of thing here. You hit jackpot. And that's what this is. You hit jackpot. And after you hit jackpot, you go silent. And it's more of, it's handling God's blessings, right? But this is the energy of someone who's very thankful. What I do see is you are really, in the silence, you're so thankful. You're also doing whatever work it takes to, say, maintain it. The Hermit card, you're in your own energy. You're not going to step out of character, right? Your character, etc. You're going to do what it is that you have to do. I do see there's a new level of discipline here where you're focused as well, and so the old version of you wasn't as focused. You have to be focused to maintain this, to do this, to complete this. When you get a win in spiritual court, and that's what I'm seeing. You got justice with the Knight of Cups, and there goes my aunt here too. Divine order, you won. You hit the jackpot. You won in spiritual court. And so when you do receive those things, when God has given you everything that you've asked for, everything and maybe more, what do we say? There's nothing else to say but thank you, God. That's it. And that's like what I'm seeing in this reading. 9 of Pentacles, I am surrounded by abundance. Life has changed so much. It's gotten so good that I am just grateful. And that's what this reading is. You don't have time for the noise, the chaos, the stuff from other people, etc. This is also like a card of like a reading of like spontaneous worship. You're very, very grateful in this reading. And I will say, people got you all the way sideways and messed up. When they think that your silence is anything else other than, no, God answered all of my prayers, and I think this is going to be for a long time, like a true miracle. Right. And this is gratitude. Sometimes people like on YouTube, like YouTube tarot, TikTok tarot, all of that, we'll claim to want things from God. We'll claim to want things from spirit. But then when you receive it, then you're already asking for the next thing and this and that. And all of that's okay, too. But this is someone who they hit jackpot. They won big. And they're also grateful for it. And this is someone who's protecting their peace and what they worked so hard for. And that's actually what this reading is saying. Okay, so I do hope that it resonates in a positive way. What do we have for the collective for advice on time, happiness, and silence? Solar plexus, and then we do have financial constraints here. So yeah, for some of you, you may have gotten some sort of big financial blessing, miracle, maybe even a wealth timeline jump over here. Why the solar plexus and financial constraints? Caring connections, rest, and rejuvenation. It could also be people around you that maybe are going through financial constraints. Why caring connections, rest, and rejuvenation? Why caring connections, rest, and rejuvenation? You're also just setting the boundary of taking more time for you, and then you could show up to your relationships higher. Why the financial constraints card for time, happiness? Why financial constraints card for time, happiness, and silence? You hit jackpot, all right? Look at that patience. But you truly are grateful. You were ready for this jackpot, okay? Door to value. You were ready to hold this jackpot because, you're not holding it and losing it. You're not holding it and then acting like a fool. You're just holding it. And yeah, this reading is like a thank you, God, here. And whoever that is watching me, people are taking you the wrong way. People could even take you as arrogant, etc., with your silence, that you're up to something. What I actually see in this reading is God, and this is God. God has done something so big, so good for you, something along the lines of hitting lottery or jackpot, that you're silent out of gratitude. And I will say that's though a lesson for anyone who thinks you're silent for any other reason. Silence does not mean negative. We do have compensation here on the bottom of the deck, all right? You've been paid, you've been compensated, but to the point where kind of thing. Or when people win the lottery and they show up in a mask, that kind of thing, all right? So that's what I have for you. I do hope that it resonates in a positive way. I'm sending you all so much love and so many blessings to your day.